I'm going to go through the rest of these fairly quickly because the videos are getting a little long. When I look at these two numbers, I can see that 81 is my smaller number. And when I look at 81 and I put a little plus sign in between the 8 and the 1, I can see that I would get 9. So when the number that I get, when my sum is a factor of 9 or 3, then both 9 and 3 are going to be factors of this number. So when I start listing my factors of 81, I know 81 is not a factor of 90. I know 2 won't be a factor because it's odd, but 3 will be, because when I added these two numbers together, I got 9. And 3 is a factor of 9, so 3 is going to be a factor of 81. And if you're not sure what that is, just use your calculator and take 81 divided by 3, and you can see it's 27. So 27 is my other factor. Is 4 a factor of 81? No, it is not. Is 5? No, it doesn't end in 5. Is 6? No, because in order to be a factor of 6, you have to have an even number. So that doesn't work. Is 7? I'm not sure. So again, I would just take 81 divided by 7 and see if I come up with an even, a whole number. Nope, not going to work. Is 8? No. 9? Yes. 10? No. 11? No. I just saw that 11 point something times 7 gives me that. 12? I'll check 12 because when I look at the number 12, when I add 1 and 2, I get 3, and I was talking about 3 over here. Because it's even, I'm thinking it's not going to work, but nope, not going to work. 13, no. 14, no. 15, no. 16, I don't believe so. 17, no, it's prime. Let me double check that. No. 18, 19, no. These are the factors of 81. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my largest factor, which is 81, and ask myself, is that a factor of 90? No. Is 27 a factor of 90? No. I know 30 is. 30 times 3 would give me 90, but 27 won't. My greatest common factor ends up being 9. So I'm going to put 9 outside of the parentheses, going to bring down my plus sign, going to bring down my variables, and I actually, because this is positive and this answer is negative, I could bring down that negative sign just so I don't forget it. 9 times what gives me 81? We already figured that out. It's not 8, it's 9. And 9 times what is going to give me negative 90? That's going to be negative 10. There's my answer. And I can check it by distributing this back out and seeing if I get these numbers, and I do. Next one, 2, 6, and 14. Well, this is easy. When I list the factors of 2, I simply get 1 and 2. So these are all even numbers, so 2 is going to be my greatest common factor. So I'm going to bring down my A, I'm going to put my plus signs in, I'm going to bring down my D. 2 times what gives me 2? 1. 2 times what gives me 6? 3. 2 times what gives me 14D? 7D. This one needs to be negative, because that's a negative 6. Next one, 54 and 12. 12 is my lowest number. 1 and 12. I've already listed these somewhere else. So I start with 12 and ask myself, is that a factor of 54? Looking at my calculator, no, because I get a decimal. 6, is 6 a factor of 54? Well, yes, by golly, it is. 9 times 6 is 54. I have one plus sign. I have no negatives. Bring down my variable. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times what gives me 12? That's 2. Done. Next one. I'm going to have 2 plus signs here. And I have a Q. And I have a P. All right. Smallest number, 2. That's going to be my common denominator. Whenever your smallest number is 2, that has to be, not common, greatest common factor. That has to be your greatest common factor. So 2 times 1Q gives me 2Q. 2 times 1 gives me 2. 2 times what gives me negative 12P? That's going to be a negative 6P. And again, multiplying back through and checking to see if I get those answers, you can see that I do. Some kids think that because there's a 2 here and this is only a 2 right here, that you don't have to put anything in between these 2 plus signs, but you do. You have to put that 1 there. Number 5. Smallest factor is 9, and I can see that 9 is a factor of 45 and 81. So this time, pulling out this first factor does work, but you can see how many times above it did not work. I'm going to bring down my variables so that I can just start my multiplying. Now this time I have to have a negative here. So 9 times negative 1 will give me negative 9b. Remember, when you have a 1 in front of a variable, you don't have to write it. So I'm just going to erase that 1 to remind you of that. If you have it there, that's fine. I'm not going to count it wrong, but you might see it like this written in a math book. And just remember there's a little invisible 1 there. 9 times 5 gives me 45. And 9 times what gives me 81? Well, that'd be 9. So when I go back and check, 9 times negative b gives me negative 9b. 9 times 5 gives me 45. 9 times 9s gives me 81s. Next one. Smallest factor here, or smallest number here, is 12. I've already listed my factors of 12 several times up here. So I'm just going to start with 12 and see if 12 is a factor of these 2 numbers. And to do that, I can use my calculator. So 108 divided by 12. Ooh, that works. Let's try the other one. 84. 84 divided by 12. Yes. Okay, so 12 is my greatest common factor because it's a factor of itself. Bring down my plus signs, bring down my variables, and now I'm going to do my multiplying. 12 times what gives me 12? Well, that's 1. And again, I'm just going to lightly write that in and not worry about writing the 1, but you can have the 1 there. 9 times what? Or excuse me, 12 times what gave me 108? That was 9. I was thinking of the answer there. And 12 times what gives me negative 84? Well, that's going to be a negative 7m. Number 6. Easy schmeezy. Smallest number is 2. That is my greatest common variable. Greatest common factor. So 2 times 2y gives me 4y. And 2 times what gives me negative 2? Well, that's a negative 1. Next one. These are easy because they all end in zeros. Yay! So 10 is going to be my greatest common factor. I'm going to bring down my variables so I don't forget about those. 10 times what gives me a negative 10b? That would be a negative 1b. 10 times what gives me 70? 7. 10 times what gives me negative 80? Negative 8. Checking it. This gives me negative 10b. This gives me 70. This gives me negative 80. Last two. Let's check 12. 12 shows up a lot in this worksheet. Let's see if it's a factor of 54. We may have already done this. Yeah, it is not. So I have to look back at my factors of 12. 12 is not going to work, so let's try 6. Well, yes, it is. 6 is a factor of 54. So 6 times, and then I have one plus sign. I have one variable. 6 times what gives me 54? That's 9. 6 times what gives me negative 12? That's negative 2. And the last one, 30 and 36. 30 is not a factor of 36. So we haven't done 30 yet. So 1 times 30 is 30. 2 times 15 is 30. 3 times 10 is 30. And 5 times 6 is 30. So starting at my largest one, I already know that's not going to work. 15 is not a factor of 36. 10 is not a factor of 36. 6 is. So my greatest common factor is 6. I have one addition sign there, and I have the variable r. 6 times what gives me negative 30? That's going to be a negative 5. Positive times negative is negative. 6 times what gives me 36? 6. You are done.